GTF2 in Zelda games, it would make sense at some point that Ganondorf is no longer a threat to Hyrule, because they keep fighting him over and over and over. It's kind of becomes tiresome at some point to always fight the same game ending boss. Not saying it was bad or boring necessarily, but over time, it would make some sort of sense that there would be a new threat. Yeah. Therefore, something like the Fire Nation. Yeah. Hyrule would have evolved and is now free from Ganondorf and his infection, and his and simply Hyrule simply is at a time of peace. Yeah, has evolved, has grown. Kakariko Village, the Water Village, and Gerudo Village have evolved too. A little, maybe not as much as the town of Hyrule. Maybe not as much as the town of Hyrule. There would be Hyrule Castle and the neighboring town, right? Hyrule Town, right? That would make some sort of sense. They have rebuilt over the course of 5 years. They would have seriously rebuilt everything. Could still have some flight elements, right? And recycle some of these elements from Tears of the Kingdom. But that's up to Nintendo if they wish to proceed with that. Maybe gain aerial combat troops or some sort. I don't know. You would have to determine what of each previous title you want to recycle. But it would make some sense that the majority of the villages from Breath of the Wild, for one, are reused in Kingdom Under Fire. It would make sense that most of the previous titles' characters come back. There's the Bird Village too, that they could potentially gain, aerial support. Maybe they can drop bombs or drop things on the enemy. In the final conflict. And stuff. That there's that. Yeah. Recycle the previous game's basic elements into Kingdom Under Fire. Make the map double big. Yeah. Make it very, very bigger, very much bigger. But recycle the previous game's elements to continue on Tears of the Kingdom. You would still have Lynels and goblins and stuff in certain parts of the map. Maybe still have horses. Despite King Hyrule evolving a little. It's up to Nintendo to decide if it's worth really investing in the horse system. I would say they would have to travel across the map, somehow, they can't just walk, It's up to Nintendo to decide if they would design something steampunk, a car or a way of transport, kind of like a wagon of some sort to travel to certain sections. But it's up to Nintendo to decide if they want to use that or recycle the horse system somehow. It would still make some sense, either way. You would need a way to travel across the map. You can't just walk, You could still be able to climb and glide and stuff, It's up to Nintendo. If they want to rebuild from the ground up using the previous game's elements and continue on the story using a new engine, that's what I would do. I would recycle the stories, the characters, the basic elements, use a new engine like Unreal, rebuild the whole Hyrule from the ground up, rebuild it all. That's what I would do. A follow-up to Tears of the Kingdom, but rebuild from the ground up using a new engine, rebuild the towns and everything. Hyrule would have expanded, the castle would have been rebuilt, the whole town would have been rebuilt, and would have quite a lot of interesting people in the story, right? You might not be doing basic quests like in Ocarina of Time, or Majora's Mask in Hyrule Town, but maybe design weapon shops, or stuff like that, food shops or stuff like that, where they can buy and sell resources. Maybe Link gathers gold, by mining gold rocks, and maybe sells that gold at a bank to gain money to buy other resources. To buy better swords or more better outfits or better armors for him and Zelda. That could be an interesting concept to add in the game. Yeah, a mining, a sort of mining. Yeah, when you're not busy closing gates or whatever throughout Hyrule, you could be mining or fishing or hunting or whatever, selling bear pelts or something. Who knows? Selling iron or using. It could even be like Oblivion blacksmithing, potentially, using materials you gather to make weapons. But that's up to Nintendo to decide how much effort they would like to put in these mechanics. I would keep something basic, not to overcomplicate the story. But yeah, they could explore these ideas, as well. That would make some sort of sense, Hyrule Kingdom would have evolved, yeah. You know, Link had his tablet. They could start to have some sort of phone. Who knows? It's up to Nintendo to decide what they want to do with that. If they want to recycle some elements of the story, but for sure, they would have to include the previous villages, in the rebuild engine, and the same characters can come in the game, whether they look the same or are slightly optimized for the new engine, that's up to Nintendo. That's what I would do. Yeah, I would make it out of Unreal, have very realistic graphics using the same characters and villages, and I would simply do a follow-up using a more modern engine, a more modern graphics, a more realistic gameplay and graphics. Yeah, that would make it quite an interesting Zelda title. Yeah, you can't reuse the same story or elements all the time or formula. It's not that it becomes boring, but it would make some sense that Ganondorf is no longer a threat. You can't recycle that element all the time. At some point, Nintendo has to realize Ganondorf must be defeated once and for all, and some new enemy threat has to come. It would make some sort of sense in the Zelda timeline that Ganondorf is finally defeated once and for all, and that would have to end with Tears of the Kingdom, right? They can't recycle Ganondorf. They can't bring him back all the time. Maybe the Fire Nation are his creation of sort. Maybe you could think about it, but that's the thing. Ganondorf was Gerudo, right? So that's a problem. You would not be able to use that. So Ganondorf, scrap that. You can't keep bringing him back in Zelda titles. Maybe in future titles you could, because he is a classic enemy. He is a classic boss. I'm not saying don't ever bring him back into a Zelda game, but you can't always bring him back. He was defeated in Breath of the Wild. You brought him back in Tears of the Kingdom. Didn't make sense. You'd have to defeat him again. Have that over. Scrap that. Can't keep bringing Ganondorf back. It would make some sort of sense that it is over. With Ganondorf, Hyrule has major recovered and evolved over the course of 5 years. It has grown. The town was rebuilt. The castle was rebuilt. And yeah, Link and Zelda are simply, celebrating their marriage and induction ceremony at the start of the game. Yeah, you could see, the start of the intro, basically explaining what happened over 5 years. Hyrule has recovered, Ganondorf was defeated, and see the village people all happy. Houses were rebuilt and so forth. The town stores have opened, and you would see the majority of the Hyrule town people, celebrating, the marriage ceremony. Link and Zelda are finally getting married. You know what I mean? Kind of thing. Yeah. Would make some sense to possibly recycle horses, or somehow, Tears of the Kingdom had machines. You could recycle some of it too, maybe not a full-on car yet, but it would make some sense that they would have some basic machinery. Yeah, Hyrule, I don't know. It's up to Nintendo to decide what is on the drawing table that would work well with the story. But it would make sense to recycle something from previous games, yeah. Yeah, for sure. At least the characters and villages. More modernized graphics, bigger map. Since the Switch 2 will have an upgrade. Processing power. I don't know about storage, but SD cards. You could have the base cartridge and do an update. Yeah. Right away, the game would possibly have a major update therefore the game would need a warning label or warning on the case. This game requires specific internet store and download to properly work, because the game would be big, and requires massive storage, maybe, so a minimum of a certain amount of gigs is required for the update. You would have to have a warning on the case. This game requires internet access, and massive storage to function. Because the map would be big. I doubt they could fit it all on one cartridge. It depends on the cartridge what they use. It would make some sense that you would need massive storage, and would need possibly a big update, to download the rest of the game. Yeah, that's the problem. Most of the game would play off the cartridge, but some of the game's graphics would be coming from the SD card as well, from the internet update. Yeah, most of the game would be run off the cartridge. But that would need massive storage. Yeah, possibly depends on the size of the card, how much data it can hold. It's up to Nintendo. Would make some sense. Just in case. It's very possible. The game will require massive storage. For one. Loading, it might be a problem. It's up to Nintendo. It depends on the Switch 2's processing power and RAM. What can be done, simply, load the game as Link and Zelda come across the map, make the game load in objects and, kind of like how Oblivion would automatically, fill in details as you come across sections of the map, right? Things would come into view, but you know what I mean. It's up to Nintendo. I wouldn't opt. Yeah, Unreal maybe. Maybe a new engine, or some sort, or maybe use the latest Unreal Engine. It would make sense. Recycle the same story elements or characters, towns, and so forth, but double the map size. And yeah. The Fire Nation would have diverse enemy types. Yeah. Maybe a brute, maybe a basic infantry, maybe a samurai kind of enemy. Who knows? Since there's a bird species, maybe they could live in a town above ground. It would make some sense, and maybe the Fire Nation is climbing up to that town somehow to stop them, right? To attack, who knows? It would make some sense, yeah. The bird people, yeah. Good assist, arrow, drops, yeah. And in the final conflict, yeah. It's up to Nintendo. If they like my ideas, it's up to them to get on the drawing table and work out the designs and work out the level design and stuff, Yeah, but it would make sense to recycle pretty much the story. Do a follow-up to Tears of the Kingdom using a new engine. Double the map size, for one, because you will need it. You will need double the map size to fit in the story of Kingdom Under Fire. Hyrule is much bigger in the future, yeah. Maybe, the aquatic people live on barge too, it would make some sort of sense that they would have developed some sort of town, floating town maybe, or both underwater or maybe floating section, yeah,
ing.